Hey Foot Geeks fans, today we want to introduce you to the official measuring tool of the orthopedic shoe store, the Brannock Device. Now you may have seen these measuring devices under the chairs of multiple department stores or maybe even your local shoe store. But many times these devices are underutilized, and it's really important to measure your foot to make sure that you get the right size. Because one of the things you may have not done for a long time is put your foot on one of these. Now they do come in three different types. There's obviously a men's specific one, a women's specific one. Usually these are marked on here. That says right there women's, and this one would be men's. And there's also others that are unisex. So this one, for example, is men and women. Blue would be men in this case, and yellow would be women. So you would read your measurements based on the color coding of that particular device. Now, obviously, the genuine Brannock device is really important because that's really the device that's been around for probably over 100 years. That's been used in the shoe industry for a very, very long time to figure out what size you may be. And it really makes a big difference in terms of being able to pick the right shoe size. All right, now we're getting to the fun part, which is measuring the foot. Now you can see right here we have a men's Brannock device, and that's obviously an important tool for us to measure feet. Men's and women's sizing are different in the US, so men's usually are about 2 sizes smaller than the women's size. So if you're a women's 9, that's kind of a men's 7 approximately. And there is some differences in terms of the sizing and obviously the width of it as well. But if you have a women's specific one or a men's specific one, use those. If you have a unisex one like we showed you, then use that one to measure your foot size, and then obviously make sure you're getting the measurements from the appropriate line that goes across, right? So this is these are the measurement lines that will measure the lengths of the feet. This little doohickey on the side will measure the arch length, which is, I will show you in a moment, is a different length altogether. And then this little doohickey right here moves side to side to measure the width of your foot and give you an idea of what the width of your foot may be. Now, obviously, if you do put shoes on and you're measuring for shoes, do measure with socks. I'm just doing this for illustration purposes with bare feet right now, so obviously don't take this the wrong way. And also, as I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you're measuring this standing up, not sitting down, because if you're measuring for shoes or sandals, whatever, you want to make sure that your foot has the ability to splay out completely. And that means that oftentimes when we stand up, the arch may actually drop a little bit, and it causes the foot to elongate. So you've got to make sure that you measure this as weight bearing and not non-weight bearing. So now, first thing you got to make sure is that you put the left heel where it says left heel, and then obviously if you want to measure the right foot or the right foot length, then you switch this around to measure the right heel. Now this is usually designed to be used by a professional instead of yourself. So if you're using this by yourself, here's a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one, when you put your foot on here, obviously the numbers that you're reading are going to be upside down because of the fact that the person is supposed to be reading it from that direction, right? So for them it's an 11. I mean, in my case, this is about 10 and a half. So this is 10, this is half size, 10 and a half, and then there's 11 over here. And one of the things you want to do is line up this piece with the big toe joint. So you can, if you can pick up your toe a little bit to figure out where that joint breaks, then you can line that up with the big toe joint to get the arch length. And in this case, arch length for me is about 10 to 10 and a half. And then what you want to do here, make sure that this comes as close as possible to your foot without squishing the feet together, right? So you don't want to squish the foot together with this particular device. And then as you read the measurement here, which is a 10, then I go over here, and obviously you would want to read it from this side as well. So 10 on this side is basically a D. So if you look at this, you can see this is a D fitting, which is a medium fitting for men. As you go into the E's, you're going into a wider size. As you're going into the A's and B's and C's, that's a narrower foot. And then obviously this is men's sizing, so women's sizing would be a little bit different. Most women, B is the medium fitting, and as you go into D, 2E, E, and 4E. Those are the wider fittings, and obviously as you go into the 2As and such, you're going into the narrower fittings, right? So those are some things you can look up. If you look up a size chart, I'll probably put a link in the description. You can have a look at some size charts and figure out, okay, where is actually the width of my foot falling right here. But this is basically how you want to do it. And obviously, again, remember, do it weight bearing, don't do it non-weight bearing, so that you get a proper measurement for your foot when you're putting full weight on it, and not when you're sitting down, because this is not going to be accurate for you if you have a tendency to have maybe a bit of pronation where the arch elongates and then pushes the toe forward. One more thing to keep in mind is that you want to measure the longest toe. So if your second or third toes are longer than your big toe, you want to measure those as opposed to the big toe to make sure that you get the proper length and none of those toes are being compromised in terms of the length of the shoe. If you have any questions, concerns, give us a little shout out at the bottom of the screen. Otherwise, have an amazing day.